You have seen it happen. A man speaks, and in seconds, his image collapses. Not because of what he says, but because of how he reacts. Emotionally weak responses do not just reveal feelings. They signal instability. They dissolve authority. They invite disregard. This is not a personality flaw. It is a behavioral leak, and once seen, it is rarely forgotten. Lesson 1. The first truth is simple. Emotionally weak responses ruin your image because they make you sound unstable, not occasionally, not in extreme moments. In the smallest exchanges, the smallest pressures, the smallest frictions, a question you did not expect, a comment that touches pride, a delay that irritates you, a disagreement that challenges your position. In these moments, the way you respond becomes your signature, not your achievements, not your intentions, not your inner story, only your response. You have watched this in others. A man raises his voice too fast, explains himself too quickly, defends a point no one attacked, laughs too loudly at something that was not funny, interrupts to secure attention, apologizes excessively for existing. His words may be correct, his argument may be logical, but the reaction reveals something deeper, a lack of internal steadiness, an inability to hold pressure without spilling. The listener does not analyze this, he senses it, instantly. Unstable behavior is louder than content. It tells the room that your inner state is easily moved by outer events, that you are governed by stimulus rather than choice, that you do not own your emotional tempo. And when a man does not own his tempo, others will not follow his lead. They will watch him cautiously. They will keep distance. They will not grant him weight. Because weight requires predictability. Predictability requires control. Most believe instability appears only in dramatic outbursts, anger, tears, public breakdowns. But instability is often subtle. It lives in rapid speech, in nervous justification, in explaining yourself before anyone asked, in defending your reputation against imagined threats, in reacting to minor friction as if survival is at stake. These are small leaks, but small leaks sink ships. You might believe you are being honest, transparent, emotionally open. But openness without containment is not strength. It is exposure. And exposure without discipline reads as fragility. People do not respect fragility. They accommodate it at best. They avoid it at worst. Either way, your image shifts downward. Silence in these moments feels dangerous to the untrained mind. It feels like losing. It feels like surrender. So you fill space. You rush to repair. You chase reassurance. And every word confirms the very instability you were trying to hide. The paradox is brutal. The more you try to appear secure through emotional expression, the more unstable you appear. One anchor sentence remains. Stability is not felt inside you first. It is observed outside you first. This is why a controlled response matters more than a correct one, why a measured pause carries more authority than an immediate answer, why a restrained tone outweighs passionate explanation. Because the world does not judge your intentions, it judges your presentation under pressure. And pressure is always present, even in casual interaction. The man who learns to hold a reaction, even briefly, changes how he is read. He becomes less penetrable, less predictable, more grounded. His words carry gravity because they arrive by choice, not reflex. His silence is not absence. It is ownership of space. And ownership of space is ownership of image. Most will never train this. They will continue leaking emotion in conversation, in disagreement, in negotiation, in intimacy. They will wonder why respect feels fragile, why authority feels temporary, why people test them repeatedly. They will not see that every test is invited by a pattern they display daily. The uncomfortable realization is this: your emotional reflexes are teaching others how to treat you long before you speak your main point. The response arrives first. The interpretation follows. The consequence stays. Lesson 2. The second truth cuts closer than most prefer to admit. Emotionally weak responses ruin your image because reactive speech signals low self-command. You may believe you are simply responding, but others see something else. They see a man pulled by impulse, a man answering before he has decided, a man whose mouth moves faster than his judgment. And once this pattern is visible, it cannot be unseen. Self-command is not proven by what you say. It is proven by how long you can remain unswayed before speaking. A question lands in your direction. Do you pause or do you scramble? A disagreement enters the room. Do you measure or do you defend? A criticism appears. Do you observe or do you strike back? These seconds reveal hierarchy, not social hierarchy, internal hierarchy. Whether your mind governs your reaction or your reaction governs your mind. Most men speak like open circuits. Stimulus enters, output fires, no gate, no filter, no containment. The result is speech that sounds urgent, unstable, eager, brittle, over-invested. The words may be reasonable, the content may even be correct, but the delivery announces dependency. Dependency on being understood immediately, dependency on being agreed with, dependency on not being misjudged. Dependency is never respected. Picture a workplace meeting. A suggestion is questioned. One man leans back, listens, considers, responds with a few deliberate words. Another leans forward, speaks rapidly, clarifies every detail, defends each sentence, adds disclaimers, softens every edge. Which man sounds secure? Which man sounds like his position rests on fragile ground? The room decides instantly, without conscious thought. Reactive speech exposes fear of loss, loss of status, loss of control, loss of image. Ironically, the attempt to protect image through emotional urgency is what corrodes it. A stable man does not rush to secure his standing. He lets time confirm it. Time is the ally of those who are not afraid of silence. Many confuse composure with coldness. They believe a measured response means emotional distance. They worry they will appear indifferent. So they overcorrect. They inject warmth, explanation, justification, reassurance. They perform stability instead of embodying it. Performance always cracks under pressure. A single pattern repeats everywhere. In relationships, in negotiations, in arguments, in casual conversation. The man who speaks before he settles himself gives away the position of power. He becomes readable, predictable, easy to steer. Others adjust their behavior accordingly. Some will dominate him, some will manipulate him, some will simply discount him. All because he revealed that his center is not anchored. One anchor sentence remains. Control is louder than explanation. You do not need to announce certainty when you possess it. You do not need to defend a stance that is stable. You do not need to rush a reply when you are not afraid of silence. The delay between stimulus and response is where authority lives. Shorten that gap and you sound governed. Widen that gap and you sound governing. Men who lack self-command often believe their problem is communication. They search for better words, better arguments, better persuasion. They miss the real issue. Their instability is not linguistic. It is temporal. They have not learned to own the moment before speech. They surrender it immediately, every time. A composed response does not mean slow speech. It means chosen speech. A reactive response may be quick or loud or soft or verbose. The form does not matter. The origin does. Was it selected or was it triggered? Others feel the difference. They trust the former, they doubt the latter. The world does not ask whether you feel strongly. It asks whether you can contain what you feel long enough to decide what deserves release. Lesson 3. The third truth reveals a quieter failure. Emotionally weak responses ruin your image because over-explaining yourself signals inner insecurity. When a man feels stable, he speaks only what is necessary. When he feels uncertain, he builds verbal armor. He stacks reasons. He adds context. He revisits points already made. He tries to ensure no misunderstanding survives, but in doing so, he announces that misunderstanding terrifies him. Over-explanation is not clarity. It is self-defense. It shows that you are more invested in being seen correctly than in standing firmly in what you said. The listener senses this immediately. They may nod. They may let you continue. But internally, your credibility is thinning. Because certainty does not need scaffolding. Consider a simple disagreement. One man states his position, then waits. Another states his position, then repeats it differently, then adds justification, then provides background, then explains why he cares, then assures he means no harm. He is not persuasive. He is exposed. Each extra sentence is a plea. Please interpret me safely. And the more he pleads, the more fragile he appears. Men often justify this habit by calling it thoroughness, but thoroughness is deliberate. Over-explanation is anxious. It is speech driven by fear of being misjudged, and fear has a tone. Even when hidden beneath polite words, it vibrates through pacing, pitch, rhythm, urgency. People do not analyze tone, they react to it. There is another cost. When you explain yourself too much, you train others not to listen the first time. They learn that you will repeat, that you will clarify, that you will soften, that they do not need to pay attention because you will chase their understanding. This subtly lowers your rank in every exchange. You become the one who pursues acceptance rather than the one whose words carry weight by default. A stable man is willing to be briefly misunderstood. He knows that time corrects false impressions. He does not scramble to repair every possible misreading in real time. He allows space. Space creates gravity. Gravity commands attention. Without space, words become noise. One anchor sentence remains. The need to be perfectly understood is a confession of doubt. Silence after a statement is uncomfortable for the emotionally weak. They fill it to avoid tension. But tension is not danger. It is presence. The ability to sit in that space without rushing to rescue the moment is a mark of self-possession. Those who lack it talk themselves into a corner, then wonder why their authority feels unstable. Over-explanation also betrays a deeper issue. It suggests that you do not trust your own position to stand alone. If you did, you would allow it to be questioned without panic. You would let others process without interference. You would speak once, then observe. Observation is power. Reaction is surrender. This is not about speaking less. It is about speaking from solidity. Few words with weight outperform many words with anxiety. A concise statement that remains standing in silence changes the atmosphere. It forces others to adjust to you instead of you adjusting to them. Most men will never practice this. They will continue to pad every message. They will continue to soften every edge. They will continue to chase perfect understanding. And in doing so, they will continue to sound unstable, even when their ideas are sound. The moment you feel the urge to explain further than necessary, you are standing at a crossroads. One path leads to composure, the other leads to exposure. Lesson 4. The fourth truth is uncomfortable because it is common. Emotionally weak responses ruin your image because seeking validation erodes perceived stability. The moment you look to others to confirm your emotional state, your position shifts. You are no longer centered. You are orbiting someone else's reaction. Validation seeking rarely looks dramatic. It hides in subtle behaviors. A glance to see if your joke landed. A follow-up question asking if you made sense. A nervous laugh after a statement that needed no laughter. A phrase added to soften impact. A quiet check to ensure no one is upset. Each of these gestures appears polite, but together they tell a story. A man uncertain of his standing. The stable man does not require immediate confirmation that he is accepted, liked, or understood. He allows his words to exist without escort. He does not chase facial cues. He does not hunt approval in the room. He trusts that those who matter will interpret him correctly over time. Those who do not were never his concern. Most men reverse this. They speak, then search. Did it land? Was it too harsh? Did I offend? Should I add something to smooth it? And so they add, and add again, and with every addition, they trade stability for reassurance. The listener senses this. They may even offer the validation requested. But what is given as comfort is registered as weakness. A simple scene plays out in everyday life. A man sets a boundary. Then he quickly explains why he is not trying to be difficult. He asks if the other person understands. He says he hopes it's okay. In a single minute, his boundary loses force. Not because the boundary was wrong, but because he communicated doubt in his right to hold it. Validation seeking also turns conversations into negotiations of emotion. Instead of speaking from conviction, you speak from caution. You scan reactions, adjust tone, reshape meaning mid-sentence. The result is not empathy, it is instability. People do not feel safe around someone whose center shifts with every micro-expression. One anchor sentence remains. Those who need agreement cannot hold authority. The irony is sharp. The more you seek acceptance, the less respectable you become. Not because acceptance is bad, but because the pursuit of it exposes dependence. Dependence lowers trust. Trust requires steadiness. Steadiness requires the ability to stand alone when necessary. Many mistake this for arrogance. It is not. Arrogance is inflation. This is containment. A stable man is open to being wrong, but he does not collapse at the possibility. He listens, he considers, he adjusts if needed, but he does not plead for emotional permission to exist in the room. Relationships suffer most from this pattern. A man who constantly checks if everything is okay teaches his partner to lead the emotional field. He becomes reactive. She becomes regulator. Polarity dissolves. Respect follows. Not because she intends harm, but because nature abhors a vacuum. If you do not hold center, someone else must. Work environments reveal the same law. The employee who seeks constant reassurance is trusted with fewer decisions. The leader who needs approval is quietly undermined, not through malice, through instinct. People follow those who appear self-contained. The moment you notice yourself searching faces after you speak, you have already left your center. Returning is simple in theory, difficult in practice. You let your words land. You resist the urge to fix, soften, or chase. You remain still, and in that stillness, your image quietly rebuilds itself. Lesson 5. The fifth truth reverses what most men believe. Emotionally weak responses ruin your image because controlled silence outperforms emotional clarity. You have been told that expressing feelings builds connection, that explaining your internal state creates understanding, that clarity is kindness. But in the public arena of perception, silence carries more authority than emotional disclosure. When tension appears, the emotionally weak man rushes to define his feelings. He explains why he reacted. He clarifies that he did not mean harm. He shares what he was thinking. He exposes his internal landscape to prevent misinterpretation, but exposure is not power. It is surrender of mystery, and mystery is one of the last remaining forms of gravity. A controlled man does not narrate his inner world at the first sign of friction. He lets others wonder. Wonder keeps attention. Explanation releases it. The more predictable you become, the easier you are to dismiss. The more accessible your emotional interior, the less value it holds. Picture two men in conflict. One says, "I reacted that way because I felt disrespected, and I didn't want things to escalate, so I thought I should speak up, but I'm not angry." The other says nothing. He looks. He breathes once. He speaks later, or not at all. Which man seems in command of himself? Which one owns the moment? Silence is not absence. It is selection. The fear of silence is the fear of losing control of perception. The emotionally weak man believes that if he does not fill space, someone else will define him. So he rushes to define himself first, but in doing so, he shrinks. He becomes a character explaining himself inside someone else's frame. Controlled silence creates an alternative dynamic. It forces others to sit with their assumptions. It forces them to consider their own role. It communicates that you are not desperate to manage their interpretation, that you trust your presence to speak without constant annotation. This does not mean never speaking about emotion. It means choosing when, how, and with whom. A stable man reveals his inner world by decision, not reflex. He does not confess to relieve pressure. He speaks to convey meaning. There is a difference. One is leakage, the other is release. Men who overshare emotional context believe they are preventing conflict. Often, they are feeding it. Each clarification opens another angle. Each explanation invites another question. Each attempt at transparency prolongs exposure. Silence would have closed the loop, but silence requires the tolerance of discomfort, and discomfort is what most flee. In leadership, silence is interpreted as thoughtfulness, in argument as confidence, in negotiation as leverage, in intimacy as depth. The same pause that feels like risk to the untrained man reads as power to the trained observer. Most never learn this. They continue narrating themselves in real time. They hand out their internal processes as if they were disclaimers. They seek safety through disclosure, but safety earned through exposure is fragile. It depends on others remaining kind. True stability does not outsource its security. The next time tension rises and words rush toward your mouth, recognize the old instinct, the urge to clarify, to soften, to show you are reasonable. Let the urge pass without obedience. Sit in the space. Let silence do its work. It will feel like loss at first. It is not. It is the slow reconstruction of your image from the inside out. Lesson 6. The sixth truth draws a line most never notice. Emotionally weak responses ruin your image because there is a difference between expression and composure, and most men live on the wrong side of it. They believe showing what they feel is authenticity. They believe transparency earns trust. They believe holding back is deception. But composure is not deception. It is filtration. It is the decision to let only what serves the moment pass through. Expression is automatic. Composure is chosen. One belongs to the nervous system. The other belongs to the will. A man without composure speaks like an open wound. Whatever touches him is immediately visible. Irritation appears as sharpness. Insecurity appears as over-explaining. Excitement appears as excessive energy. Fear appears as defensiveness. He is readable in seconds, and what is readable is manageable. People learn how to push, how to steer, how to provoke, how to calm. He becomes an instrument played by the environment. The composed man is not emotionless. He simply decides what deserves daylight. He may feel anger, but he does not bleed it into the room. He may feel doubt, but he does not kneel before it publicly. He may feel enthusiasm, but he does not spill it indiscriminately. He contains first, then chooses, and that choice is what others respect. Most misunderstand composure because they have never experienced it. They think it is stiffness, they think it is coldness, they think it is repression. But repression is fear-driven. Composure is strength-driven. One hides because it cannot handle what it holds. The other holds because it can handle what it has. A simple scene shows the difference. A colleague criticizes your work. The expressive man reacts. He explains himself. He defends his decisions. He reveals irritation in tone. He tries to convince. The composed man listens. He does not nod excessively. He does not interrupt. He allows the criticism to land. He responds with a measured sentence or two. Not because he agrees, because he is not shaken. In that moment, the composed man controls the temperature of the room. The expressive man is controlled by it. One anchor sentence remains. Emotion displayed is emotion surrendered. This principle reaches beyond conflict. In joy, the expressive man needs others to mirror his energy to feel validated. In disappointment, he needs others to comfort him to regain balance. His emotional state depends on external participation. That dependency is visible, and dependency always lowers rank. The composed man is self-regulating. His emotional state is an internal matter. Others may influence it, but they do not command it. He does not require agreement to remain steady. He does not require reassurance to remain intact. He does not require applause to remain confident. That independence is felt before it is understood. Many fear that if they adopt composure, they will lose connection. They believe relationships need constant emotional display. But true connection is not built on leakage. It is built on presence. And presence is strongest when emotion is contained, not spilled. Composure also protects dignity. A man who cannot control his outward reaction is at the mercy of every stimulus. A rude stranger, a careless comment, a small inconvenience. Each has the power to pull him out of himself. He becomes a servant to circumstance. Dignity requires the opposite. That circumstance must pass through you, not drag you with it. Most men will continue choosing expression because it feels natural. Composure feels like work. It feels unnatural at first. It feels like swallowing fire. But with repetition, it becomes the new instinct. The pause becomes automatic. The selection becomes effortless. The stability becomes expected. And when composure becomes your default, your image stops requiring maintenance. It holds without effort. It does not need explanation. It does not need validation. It does not need defense. It simply stands, quiet, firm, unshaken, like something carved rather than assembled, something grown inwardly rather than built outwardly, something that remains even when no one is watching, especially then. Lesson 7. The seventh truth is subtle but decisive. Emotionally weak responses ruin your image because tone betrays rank before words do. Long before a sentence is processed, the nervous system of the listener has already judged you, not by logic, by cadence, by pacing, by steadiness, by the emotional load riding on your voice. Tone is the body speaking first. Most men focus on wording. They search for sharper arguments, smoother phrases, clever structure. They ignore the fact that their tone has already delivered the verdict. A voice that rushes communicates anxiety. A voice that rises at the end of statements communicates uncertainty. A voice that softens too quickly communicates submission. A voice that hardens too quickly communicates volatility. None of this requires a single word to be understood. A stable man speaks as if he has time, because he does. His tone does not hurry to secure agreement. It does not climb to seek approval. It does not collapse to avoid conflict. It remains level, measured, economical. Each word lands because it is not chasing the next. The emotionally weak man speaks as if something is at stake in every sentence, because in his mind it is. His image, his acceptance, his position, his safety. That internal urgency leaks outward. The listener feels it and adjusts, sometimes with dominance, sometimes with dismissal, sometimes with polite tolerance, rarely with genuine deference. Consider a negotiation. One man states his terms with a steady tone and pauses. The other fills silence with nervous additions. His voice speeds up, his sentences soften, his pitch rises. Even if his offer is better, he has already signaled lower rank. The outcome is decided before content is weighed. This is why emotionally weak responses are so damaging. They teach others how to place you, not where you wish to be placed, but where your tone reveals you belong. Once that placement is set, it is hard to reverse. People remember how you sounded under pressure more than what you said. One anchor sentence remains. Tone is the spine of speech. Without a strong spine, even correct words slump. With a strong spine, even simple words stand tall. Many men try to repair this by forcing a deeper voice, a slower delivery, a rehearsed confidence. But technique without inner stability is fragile. Under real tension, the old tone returns. Because tone is not a performance, it is a symptom. It reflects how centered you are when the moment arrives. A man who is internally settled does not need to manage his tone. It emerges controlled because he is controlled. A man who is internally agitated cannot fake steadiness for long. Cracks appear, speed increases, pitch shifts, words tumble. The body reveals what the mind tries to hide. This reaches into everyday life. A disagreement at home, a correction at work, a boundary with a friend. In each, your tone teaches others how to treat you next time. If you sound unstable, they will test again. If you sound grounded, they will adjust. Most never train this. They live their lives with a voice that exposes their emotional volatility. They blame misunderstanding. They blame others' insensitivity. They blame bad timing. Rarely do they consider the simple truth. They sound unstable, so they are treated as such. To change this, you do not start with the voice. You start with the pause before the voice. You let the first impulse pass. You allow breath to settle. You feel the weight of your body. Then you speak, not from reaction, from decision. Tone follows decision naturally. When your tone becomes steady, your image stabilizes without effort. People feel it. They cannot explain it. They simply sense that you are not easily moved. And what is not easily moved is respected, not feared, not worshipped, respected. And respect is the only soil where authority grows. Lesson 8. The eighth truth is revealed only when pressure rises. Emotionally weak responses ruin your image because discomfort is a test most fail publicly. Every man faces moments where the air tightens. An accusation, a misunderstanding, a challenge, a social slight, a sudden responsibility. These moments are small furnaces. They do not create character. They reveal it. The emotionally weak man treats discomfort as an emergency. His body reacts first. His voice follows. He rushes to extinguish the feeling. He explains, corrects, justifies, jokes, deflects, attacks, retreats. Anything to make the moment less sharp. But in trying to escape discomfort, he exposes himself. He shows that he cannot hold tension, that he must release it immediately. That pressure commands him. The composed man allows discomfort to exist. He does not dramatize it. He does not flee it. He does not decorate it with excessive words. He lets the moment remain sharp without cutting himself on it. This is not toughness. It is tolerance. The ability to stay present while the nervous system wants to discharge energy. Few develop this. That is why few appear stable when stakes rise. Watch any public disagreement. One person keeps their breathing slow, their eyes steady, their posture still. The other shifts, fidgets, laughs nervously, raises volume, speeds up, over-articulates. The audience, even unconsciously, knows who is leading. Not by argument, by who remains unbothered. One anchor sentence remains. Pressure exposes the true posture of the mind. Most men practice control only when calm. They rehearse confidence in safety. But when pressure arrives, training vanishes. Instinct takes over. And instinct, untrained, is reactive. Emotional weakness is not a lack of intelligence. It is a lack of rehearsal under tension. This is why the first public failure feels humiliating. A man who believed himself confident hears his own voice shake. He sees his own hands move. He feels his own urgency leak. And he realizes his self-image was built in quiet rooms, not tested rooms. Some retreat after this. They become avoidant. They speak less. They withdraw from exposure. Their image stabilizes by absence. But absence is not authority. It is hiding. True stability remains visible under strain. Others swing to aggression. They harden their voice. They adopt confrontation. They try to overpower discomfort rather than tolerate it. But aggression is still reaction. It is simply a louder leak. It reveals the same fragility wearing armor. The composed path is slower. It trains the pause, the breath, the stillness, the ability to let a comment land without immediate movement, to feel the heat without escaping it, to choose response rather than discharge reaction. This is why composed men appear older than their years, not in face, in presence. Most will never practice this. They will continue treating discomfort as a signal to act immediately. They will continue speaking too fast when nervous, laughing when uncertain, over-explaining when challenged. They will continue failing the same test in different forms, but the man who learns to remain when it is uncomfortable acquires a rare quality. When others lose center, he keeps his. When others scramble, he stands. When others leak, he contains. And slowly, without announcement, his image shifts, not into perfection, into steadiness. Steadiness is what people trust in storms. Not brilliance, not charm, not passion. The one who remains still while others sway becomes the reference point. And reference points do not chase respect. They attract it by simply not moving when the ground trembles. Lesson 9. The ninth truth is one most men underestimate until it costs them. Emotionally weak responses ruin your image because a single unstable moment has a long memory. People forget what you achieved. They forget what you intended. They forget what you meant. But they do not forget how you behaved when pressure touched you. That image stores itself in their nervous system. It becomes the reference point they return to, silently, every time they see you again. A man may be competent for years, reliable, intelligent, skilled, but one emotionally weak response in a visible moment can eclipse all of it. A public overreaction, a defensive outburst, a frantic explanation, a tone that cracks, a visible scramble for validation. It lasts seconds. Its consequence lasts much longer, because instability is registered as risk, and the mind avoids risk without needing permission. Most men believe reputation is built through repeated success. In reality, reputation is often decided by rare failures, not moral failures, emotional ones, moments when self-command dissolves in front of witnesses. People may forgive, they may move on, they may remain polite, but their internal calibration has shifted. They now know where your floor is, and they will never unknow it. This is why emotionally weak responses are expensive. They mortgage future authority for immediate relief. In the moment, reacting feels like survival. Defending feels necessary. Explaining feels clarifying. But the cost is invisible. A lowered ceiling on how seriously you will be taken. A quiet reduction in how much tension others trust you to hold. A subtle downgrade in perceived stability. Consider a leader who once panicked during a crisis. He may later recover, he may learn, he may perform well again. But in the minds of those who saw him break, the image remains. Next crisis, they will watch him more closely. Trust will be conditional. Doubt will be present before he speaks. This is not cruelty. It is memory doing its job. Men often ask how to rebuild image after an unstable moment. They search for statements, apologies, clarifications, explanations. But explanation does not erase memory. Only consistent long-term composure does. And even then, the stain fades slowly, because instability is registered more deeply than stability. It is an alarm event. The brain keeps alarms close. One anchor sentence remains. A single crack teaches others where you break. This is why training composure is not optional. It is preventative architecture. It is the difference between being occasionally unstable and being known as unstable. Everyone slips. But the man who trains response reduces the frequency of slips. And frequency matters more than intensity. One crack in a decade is human. Repeated cracks become identity. Many men live unaware of this. They treat emotional outbursts as isolated incidents. They believe each moment resets. It does not. Every visible reaction accumulates. Each one contributes to a pattern others silently map. Over time, they are not responding to who you are today. They are responding to the composite of your visible reactions. This is why the work is internal. You do not control others' memories. You control your future responses. Each composed moment deposits stability. Each restrained reaction builds a new track. Slowly the weight shifts, but never instantly. Stability is earned over time because instability can appear in an instant. The uncomfortable realization is that your image is not made of your best moments. It is made of your most revealing ones, and revealing moments always arrive when pressure enters the room. Lesson 10. The final truth completes the pattern. Emotionally weak responses ruin your image, but disciplined response rebuilds it. Not quickly, not dramatically, quietly, relentlessly, through repetition so consistent that the old image begins to lose relevance in the minds of those who watch you. Discipline in response is not perfection. It is not never reacting. It is the decision to recover faster each time, to pause where you once rushed, to speak where you once spilled, to hold where you once collapsed. Every disciplined response is a deposit into a new identity, and identity, once observed often enough, becomes expectation. People do not need you to announce change. They test it, subtly. A comment here, a challenge there, a moment of friction. They watch how you handle it. If the old pattern appears, their belief in your instability is confirmed. If the new pattern holds, doubt begins to loosen. Over time, the memory of your past reactions loses dominance. A new memory takes its place, the memory of steadiness. This is the difference between reputation management and character building. Reputation management is outward, statements, clarifications, image crafting. Character building is inward. It shapes the source of response. One is fragile, the other is structural. A man rebuilding his image must accept a difficult fact. He will not be trusted immediately. He will not be given the benefit of the doubt at first. He will be watched, quietly, sometimes unfairly, sometimes skeptically. But this is not punishment. It is calibration. Others are updating their model of who you are. And only behavior updates models. One anchor sentence remains. Authority is restored through repetition, not explanation. This is why the disciplined man does not plead for renewed respect. He does not remind others of his growth. He does not demand a clean slate. He simply behaves differently, consistently, under pressure, until the environment adjusts. Adjustment is slow, but it is inevitable when behavior is stable. Many abandon this process halfway. They show composure for a short period. They feel unseen, unacknowledged. They slip back into old patterns, and the world confirms their instability. Not because it is cruel, because it is accurate. The man who persists understands that every interaction is training, a brief exchange at a store, a disagreement at home, a meeting at work, a message sent under irritation. Each is a repetition. Each is a brick. Over time, the structure stands, and once it stands, it requires less effort to maintain. Discipline in response also changes inner experience. At first, holding reaction feels like suppression, like swallowing something alive. Over time, the reaction itself weakens. The pause becomes natural. The stillness becomes default. The emotional surge becomes smaller. Not because feelings vanish, because they are no longer obeyed blindly. This is the quiet end of the pattern. Emotionally weak responses once ruled your image. They shaped how others saw you. They dictated how situations unfolded. They made your presence uncertain. Now, disciplined responses begin to shape a new presence, one that does not rush, one that does not leak, one that does not scramble for validation, one that does not collapse under discomfort. No announcement is needed, no declaration of change, no grand moment of transformation. Just a man who responds differently than before, again and again and again, until the world no longer remembers the old version clearly. And when that happens, you do not feel powerful. You feel simple, centered, unremarkable in the best sense. A man who stands where he stands, speaks when he chooses, remains when pressure arrives, leaves when purpose is complete. Nothing dramatic, nothing loud, just stable,